I'm Richard Porter.
I'm Jonny Smith.
And this is Smith and Sniff, a podcast in which two friends talk about cars, and this week Hyundai and Land Rover and McLaren. Forgive me if I'm not very relaxed during this. As we speak, my car is in for an MOT, and I always find that a nerve-wracking thing.
Oh, is it? Which one?
The Porsche.
Oh, which hasn't been used for about a year.
Yes. Did you take it for? Because
I do enjoy taking my cars for an MOT that's about 20 miles away. Because in that 20 miles, I do up to temperature, bit of trail braking, couple of emergency stops, and then I tend to do a sort of full suite of driving techniques. Do you not do that?
But then what do? You just have to wait with the car while it's MOT'd.
Oh yeah, I never leave a car. I'm not a twat.
Why would you not?
Because I don't trust people. No, I don't trust people. Never. I
have taken it to a place around the corner that I do trust because the guy is big into 911s and indeed Defenders, and he's
crackers.
Yeah, I do trust him. I'm not going to. There's nowhere to wait in his place either. You'd have to stand outside. It'd be weird.
That's what I do. No, I do that.
Really?
No, I do that. I drive the car onto the ramps.
Really?
Oh yeah, shit yeah.
They let you do that?
Well, I just do it.
So is this why you don't leave your car? Because
I don't. That's why I don't do valet parking. Valet parking's for absolute mugs. You are asking for trouble if you do valet parking, because it just means you're going to be punished for being fundamentally lazy.
I mean, valet parking's quite rare here, isn't it, in this country, relatively? Like in America, there's loads of valet parking.
And and look what's happened to America. It's all because of valet parking. It's all because of I couldn't be bothered to walk 50 metres from my car.
Valet parking's not COVID friendly for a start, but also it's just I don't know. I don't have a particular problem with valet parking, but I suppose depends on the car.
Yeah, you see, I'm very funny about like who I leave my car with. Now, a full restoration is different because I will have vetted the company heavily, so I know that the work that will be done is going to be done to a standard, and the car won't be driven. But driving my cars is sort of different. I'm very precious.
I am with you there. But when it comes to the MOT place is not literally, but almost around the corner, and so it would be weird to wait because I could just walk home and wait for the call, which is what I'm doing now. So the car's in there. I know they're busy this morning, so I'm not expecting it to be done straight away. But on the other hand, sometimes they are. This place is weirdly brisk. Like, they just rattle through MOTs. And remember when I had that Jeep Cherokee, which was definitely not a perfect car. And there was definitely, I felt like the brakes were could have been better. And when they MOT'd that, it was like I dropped it off. I walked home. I barely got through the front door. They rang me and went, "Yeah, it's passed." And I was like, I was just about to say, this is the thing. The MOT's only 45 minutes. If a company says, yeah, bring it in the morning and we'll have it done by the end of the day, I go, no. When do you want to do the MOT? I have to know. Is it 3:10? Is it 2:15? Is it 10:45? Because I'm not just casually leaving my car with you for the day. That doesn't happen in Johnny's world. That doesn't work. I don't buy that. And you're talking to a guy that doesn't even have good cars. I mean, if I had a 911, I would just be stood behind it at all times, watching what everyone was doing when they were getting in and out of it. But I trust this guy, and he does have some quite fancy cars. I'll tell you what he had in when I dropped the 911 off. He had a beautiful 500 SEC, 80s one, a 126. Yeah. He has some really nice cars in, like not just sort of flash new things or newish things, but he has some
quality
interesting
retro
old stuff. Yeah, and he's got a Jensen Interceptor in his yard at the moment. All sorts of nice.
It's funny you should mention the SEC Roadhouse spec. When we did that video, which is I think the most successful Smith and Sniff video we've ever done, the Field of Dreams.
Yes.
Walking around in the absolute driving rain on the side of that hill, looking at shoddy pieces of car shite. We did that 2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago?
It was a year ago. It was a year ago to the day. You know when your phone says, "Oh, you did this exactly 12 months ago."
Oh, that's right, because it was just before we sort of lurched into lockdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was before coronavirus.
Because we had to put a disclaimer on the front of the video going, "This was filmed before now."
That's
so
right.
People didn't complain.
It's 12. Today is 12 months to the day, I think, that we filmed that.
Crikey!
And do you remember how much fun we had?
Yes. It was hilarious.
It was hilarious. I brought a couple of pictures. Do you remember the escort van at the front had actually fallen off of?
Which then sold for actual cash money, which seems extraordinary because it just looked like total chod.
It was retro Vortex. The front had actually fallen off like a nodding horse, like a hobby horse. It just gone off around the strut towers.
I've just looked this up, and that Field of Dreams video is on 275,000 views, which for the relentless underachieving standards of our channel is really good.
For us, that's amazing.
I know you bang that out on a late break show vid every week, don't you? But Smith and Sniff is a less popular place. Well,
also we actually put time and effort into like keywords and the science of YouTube. But whereas back then, you and I, we didn't do stuff like that, did we, Rich?
No.
I'd like to do stuff like that again.
Still don't understand. I don't understand how all that shit works. So that's probably why our videos don't do very well. It's one of the reasons why our videos don't do very well.
Do you want a list?
I'll add it to the list.
It's like a Dua Lipa song. 1, it's just not very good, so don't bother 2, watching it.
Bit weird. 3, boring. Just hang on, I was going to see if that must be our top rated video.
I think it is.
Most viewed. Blip, blip, blip. Yes, by a mile. The next one's only at 122,000, which is when we tested the new Jimny. Funny enough, I know it sounds terribly egotistical, but I need to re-watch one of our videos.
That does sound a little bit egotistical.
But for work reasons, because I've currently got one of the 4-cylinder Toyota Supras. There's a new 4-cylinder one.
Yes.
Outside, I've got a test.
Have you?
Write about, yeah. And I was suddenly like, what did I think of the 6-cylinder one? I seem to remember I sort of liked it but couldn't see the point, but I need to check some details. I thought, I'll rewatch the Smith and Sniff review, and then I started thinking, actually, that might not help because we very rarely stick to the fucking point in those videos. So I'm going to have a little watch,
like that. Yeah.
See if I can kind of piece together some more information about what I thought of it. I mean, I have a vague memory of it.
I tell you what, we from memory, the Supra, the normal Supra, the 6-pot. I think I like that car. I think it's really good. It's kind of weird that it's only a 2-seater when you think it probably should have made it a 2+2 or something, but that's not a big deal. I think the biggest deal is the fact that it didn't come with a manual option, and I think that was a big oversight especially for Toyota, because basically the GT86 is cheap, much cheaper, like less than half price when it was on sale. I know it's just gone off sale, but and probably more engaging and satisfying ultimately. And so you kind of go,
there's a lot of stuff that you could get for the same money. That's the problem.
Yeah,
I know the
Alpine.
Yeah,
you've got the Alpine. You got a nice sorted Cayman or a Boxster.
And then you get to that and you sort of go.
Yeah, you could have a Stage 3 Cosy, probably. No, you couldn't actually. No, not that Cosa. For that kind of money, you probably couldn't actually.
Fuck me, your last video on well, not your last one actually, but that one where you did that brand new classic Mark II Escort has got as many views in less than a week, pretty much, as our Field of Dreams most successful Smith and Sniff video ever has in a year. So
well, I'm trying to do YouTube professionally, Rich. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I am aware of that.
I'm trying to hit it hard, but do it with integrity. A little bit of classic, a little bit of sports, a little bit of future tech. You know what I mean? Sports. I have to say, I've really fallen for that car. I found out. I spoke to a guy last night actually that watches the channel, and he's ordered one. He watched it on. He said, I watched it on Saturday late morning over brunch, and then I sent them an email that afternoon with my wife's consent, and then I was on the phone Monday morning speccing it. I was like, oh gosh, that's so cool. That's so cool. I know.
You should be getting a cut of that.
I should be getting a fucking cut of it. I will come down, I will go over to Wales and I will fucking cut you if you don't give me a cut of the price of the cut. Right, you take.
Look, guys, listen, look.
Guys, what's up, guys?
Since we sort of started talking there about cars, I realised we've playing a bit of catch-up because we totally glossed over last week that new McLaren Artura or whatever it's called.
Oh,
we're going to talk about,
is.
and then we sort of got to the end and forgotten. Well, there's a new Nissan Qashqai as well, if you're interested in that. And then this last week, there's the Land Rover Defender V8 came out.
Yeah.
So I thought we
and the
touch on some of these things.
And Gordon Murray's trackday version of the T50.
Yeah,
Just
let's start with that. Let's start with that only because I thought that the T50 is really interesting, and I like the look of it. And it's Gordon Murray, so
you're interested,
because he's a legend, a lightweight legend.
He is,
or a legend of lightweighting. I don't know, and that's all fine. The T50S, the track-only version, I am so not interested in it that you can't even see my interest with a telescope. It's like I just don't give a toss, and I can't fully explain why. It's just sort of I don't get the point of it.
I think I know why.
Are you interested in it?
Not nearly as much.
No,
not nearly as much.
It's not just me.
I think it's because you to the everyman, and when I say the everyman, let's just say someone that can afford a supercar but isn't like a well-rehearsed hot driver necessarily. I don't think you'd probably be able to make it go much faster around a track in the real world, and yet the road car will always be far better at all the other stuff you want to use it for. That's assuming you would buy a car like that and ever use it, because there's an awful lot of these cars which get squirreled and put into Swiss vaults and I don't know, given as backhanders to crippling governments or whatever. But I don't know what happens
with that. What was that Lamborghini? Was it the Reventon?
Yes.
The, like 25 off Lamborghini, and they tried to sell it only to valued customers who'd bought lots of Lamborghinis and were trusted and things. And one of them ended up in the hands of I can't remember which country's the dictator.
What, of like President Assad?
Yeah, really unsavoury guy. I can't remember his name now, but yeah,
Kim
iffy,
Jong.
Really iffy. Yeah. And I just when limited run cars go wrong. I do think supercar manufacturers like Pagani, I know we've joked about that in the past, they all make incredible engineered vehicles, but because there's that element of belendery attached to the attitude when you see a supercar go by, there's people who really don't like you just because of what you're driving. Why, as we move into a more coach-built world probably again with small cars, why don't supercar manufacturers just offer all of the supercar underpinnings but with just a different body? I don't know.
Why can't we just do that?
Maybe you can.
Wouldn't it be really... Well, you imagine if you just go, Gordon, look, I love the T50S. I think it's a wonderful piece of engineering. I tell you what I'm going to do. The last 3 years of your aerodynamic studies, let's just throw those all away. And could I put the body shell of an Audi 80 on it, please? Is that okay? Sort of early 90s, so aero era. And he would just look at you and go, "It's okay. I'll pay what it takes. It's absolutely fine. I do want it warranted. Can we make that happen?" And therefore, the exclusivity box is ticked because all these people want exclusivity. Go, "Oh, well, you're the madman that did that." "Oh, yeah, I am the madman that did that." You know what? In the same way that
guy with that really fast Audi 80.
Do you know what I mean? It's like really. Or what about when Renault did that Espace F1, which people talk about because it was so cool?
Yeah.
Imagine if you just could buy a car like that was road legal. But it was based on a Pagani Huayra, and you just go, I've got a Huayra Espace mashup, And yes, it's fine. I had to pay an extra 3 million quid for it, but it doesn't matter because I'm Ralph Lauren.
Yeah,
as you can tell, because I've got yacht decking for a forehead, so I'm.
I'm incredibly smart casual at all times.
Hi guys, I'm a clothes designer, and I absolutely love the variety and character of clothing, and that's why I wear the same black jumper every day of my life.
Yeah. I'm something of a style icon, and yet, if you look closely, I'm basically wearing beige chinos all the time.
I don't understand why clothes designers wear really boring clothes. It's like, are you trying to tell us something?
Maybe it's like a blank canvas. Blank canvas, just, you know.
Oh, what? It's like you got to cleanse the palette.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it'll taint your opinions and choices that day. If you were to wear magenta chinos to work, everything suddenly changes.
Yeah. I wonder if Ferrari do that thing that, like, Eric Clapton had a car made that was supposed to be inspired by the old Berlinetta Boxer.
Oh yeah.
And then I just wondered if you went to Ferrari and you went, yeah, I'd like to have something based on the 488 Pista chassis, but I would like it to look like an Austin Princess, please. Whether they would tell you to piss off.
Oh my gosh, I'd absolutely love that. You know I would. That's why you've said it. And it would be Pininfarina is very, very proud to be associated with the Princess of Hearts project. This is it's a full carbon fibre shell.
For an unnamed lunatic who has more money than sense.
Yes.
It's an extremely fast Austin Princess. Hey, actually, talking of new cars that we're going to ham-fistedly try and round up, that electric Hyundai that came out last week.
Ioniq 5.
Ioniq 5, which does sound like some kind of 1970s stop frame animation, or maybe a cartoon. When trouble calls, you need the Ioniq 5.
Do you remember Ulysses 31? It was a strange early 80s cartoon
that
involved kind of dead people or people in suspended animation, and it didn't fully explain why they were never going to wake up. It was actually quite traumatic for a kid, but I think that was a staple diet of sort of 70s and 80s cartoons. They were very troubling and not appropriate for the audience, but they greenlit them anyway.
Some of that Hanna-Barbera stuff from the late 60s, early 70s was quite trippy.
Oh, it's...
For reasons you could probably figure out, that they were based in California and it was the late 60s. But it's, they're quite... Some of them are quite zany. But then maybe that's it. After that came the darkness, which led us into the 80s. I don't remember Ulysses being called Ulysses 31, though.
I think it was Ulysses 31, and I don't know whether it's anything to do with like WD-40. Was it like the 31st version of a cartoon that got commissioned?
I love that about WD-40, that they got to 39 experiments and it still wasn't working. And they were, let's just give up. No, let's give it one more try. And
yes, it is Ulysses 31.
Yeah.
TV series from 1981 to 82, so obviously massively successful then.
Short-lived.
And it was based in the 31st century.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, well, there we go. But I just remember it being really troubling, unnecessarily dark. I didn't expect to talk about this in today's Smith and Sniff, actually. Ulysses 31. It's
hard to comprehend what the 31st century would be like, because that's 1,000 years from now. And 1,000 years back from here is the 12th century, and it's not. It's the 11th century, and it's more than 1,000 years. Actually, I'm doing my maths all cockeyed because I can't 2021 mixed up with. Anyway, it's 1,100 years in the future, but if you go 1,100 years back, I mean, that's like before the Battle of Hastings. That's before, I don't even know what happened in like 900. It's
Ulysses 31.
So, but if you went to someone in the 10th century and you went and said, now look, this is an iPhone. Let me explain how it works. Oh, this old thing, this is a Ford Fiesta. I'll talk you around that one in a minute. Their heads would explode. It's incomprehensible. Look, this is an Airbus A320. It just couldn't Possibly. These are crisps, by the way. Yeah, these are. This is a bag of Quavers. Again, we'll get onto that. They just couldn't comprehend the state of our world. So,
these are my feet. Yeah, these are Crocs. Yeah, these are just Crocs. They'd be like, "Look, I don't care about. I don't care about the television in your hand troubles me. The thing on your feet is what I'm grossly worried about."
Also, what are these tubular fabric items that are encasing your legs? Well, these are trousers. Oh, Jesus, we've got a lot of catching up to do here, my friend. It's not a bad idea for a show. Actually, someone accidentally somehow gets time travelled from the 10th century, and they're so unfamiliar with the modern world. Although I don't actually know enough about history to know what they did and didn't have back then, but I'm going to say cars, no. iPhones, no. Trousers, probably not. Electricity in any sort of meaningful, useful way, no. Fire, yes. Houses, yes, but not constructed in the way that we would know.
No, different construction.
Windows, did they have windows?
It's a bit like... There's two things I have to point out. One, when I started talking to my wife about Ulysses 31 ages ago, she went, "No, that was rubbish compared to Jason and the Wheeled Warriors," and I'd never heard of that. I think she's a tad older than me. I had to look it up, but it's, again, crazy Japanese animation where people turn into actual cars or trucks. It's better than Transformers. And I was like, well, that's right out there. I love that. And there was something else I was going to say to you, and I've completely forgot what it was. I got so excited about people turning into cars. Oh, shit.
Was it something to do with Jamie and the Magic Torch?
No. I remember my brother used to watch that. In fact, my brother was really good at instantly changing the lyrics to songs. I remember for Ulysses 31, he used to sing, Ulysses, Ulysses, he vandalised all the lavatories. And I, as a, 5-year-old, used to think that was hilarious. Why I still remember it now is anybody's guess, because it's not important, is it? I don't need to know that.
It's not, but the mind is a mysterious thing. And it stores stuff that you don't necessarily want or need. But
why are we talking about those cartoons? How's that happened?
Anyway, well, look, I was going to
talk about Gordon Murray's car.
Yeah, Gordon Murray's car. Not that interested in it somehow, and also I find it a bit weird that it's called the T50S Niki Lauda.
Yes,
I find it tenuous, and I know he said, he got permission from the family, and it's relevant because he designed the fan car that Niki Lauda drove, and this is a car that uses
a homage,
a fan. I don't find that enough of a connection. I find it a bit weird.
It's a bit too distant.
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
Just, I don't know, not down with that. But not to diss Gordon Murray, who remains a low mass legend, but it's just I think that's a bit of a stretch, and it doesn't need it. It's like it's still an amazing thing. I don't like the front view. I think it looks like it's lost some of the litheness of the road car, but the back, where it's got no bodywork covering most of the tyres, and it's got that fan, and it's all sort of swept upwards. I really do
strange. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I think I'm more about the Uber road car. It's like the whole Ferrari FXX thing. It's okay, but it just automatically means you have to trailer it everywhere. Trailers are a pain in the arse. And
yes, as we established last week, anyone who tows stuff is untrustworthy, and so.
I did. That's not what I said.
It's what you were implying, though, isn't it? Anyone who tows stuff is a wrong 'un. It's just
ability to tow. It's like the diving watch that can go to 1,000 meters, but if you accidentally have a shower and you forget to take your watch off, you're safe. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that kind of comparison.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering though, if you've got the money to buy one of these T50S's, just why not just, because you're gonna have to trailer it anyway or get someone to trailer it for you, but why not just buy a Formula Ford car or something, or for fuck's sake a Caterham or an Ariel Atom? I bet you'd have more fun because you'd be able to use more of the performance and get closer to the edges of grip. I mean, that fucking Gordon Murray car with its fan is going to be absolutely stuck down. But basically, you're not going to be a racing driver if you can afford one, unless you are literally Lewis Hamilton or someone who has millions of pounds, in which case you get to drive a Formula One car for your job. So this won't be that interesting to you. I don't think Lewis Hamilton goes to track days.
I think if Lewis Hamilton did go to a track day, he'd be trying to hustle a car that just didn't want to go around a track, because he would just do it for shits and giggles, wouldn't he?
I'd love to think that Lewis
He'd just
Hamilton...
turn up in a Disco 2 V8.
and still overtake loads of people.
That was the thing. He'd overtake someone in a Gordon Murray T50, and he'd go, was that just, that guy looks so much like he looks so much like Lewis Hamilton in an automatic Land Rover Discovery 2. He's really pressing on with plumes of black smoke. It's incredible.
Lewis Hamilton just trolling track days in a series of absolutely track unsuitable cars. That'd be fabulous.
But that's golden television. You'd covert rig the car. Lewis would probably have, some different face furniture or something like that, or maybe you'd be wearing a fleece, so he'd look like someone who'd just been shooting in a field, or whatever, And do you not think that? I think that's automatically more fun than turning up in a track day specific FXX type thing. I'm not being funny, right? But there's a bloke just turned up at this track day in what is very clearly an ex-British gas van. You can still see where they picked the stickers off. But he's just gone out there and absolutely creamed 3 guys in Ulysses. And he looks a bit like... No, it can't be. Yeah. Wow. I'd love to see that. Every time he goes, he's got something else that he's just bought off eBay and driven straight to the track. Just check the tyres, and he's off. He's just bought good tyres, because it's all about the tyres. So he has actually spent money on tyres.
Yeah,
the thing comes in running on, I don't know, Pilot Sport 2s or whatever. Yokohama 888s.
Yeah. I had a quick look at it while it was cooling down in the pit lane, and it was on absolutely fresh Toyo 888s, but in all other respects it did look like a Leyland Sherpa minibus, and you could still see the name of the charity that it had once belonged to written down the sides.
Yes, it was the Ford Aerostar borrowed from the Freedom Chapel in somewhere in Kentucky, and he's actually setting a lap record in Laguna Seca. This is quite remarkable. So, what modifications have happened to the car? Nothing.
None.
Just new tyres and tyre
new
pressures.
Tyres and pure talent.
Yeah.
Incredible.
But do you not? The thing is the people that buy all those expensive cars could either build the ultimate sleepers and this would make it even funnier for stuff like YouTube, because you'd be able to troll people on a track day. Yeah.
But I like the idea that Hamilton starts doing this, and then word gets out in the F1 community. Have you heard what Lewis does at weekends? Apparently he finds a track day, like at Bedford Autodrome or something like that, and then he'll go and buy like a really old Japanese import Honda CR-V off eBay, put some decent rubber on it, and then he'll just go out and just annoy people in faster cars. And, and then Jenson Button goes, well, hang on a minute, this sounds like a giggle. I think I'm going to do that. He's straight on the bay. He manages to buy...
What's Button going for?
Button's managed to pick up a...
Is he going Honda?
No. Oh, I suppose he could do for loyalty, couldn't he?
Would he go for a Legend?
He's got a CRX Del Sol with a faulty electric roof, so it's a bit cheap.
And so it's half up and half down.
It's jammed. The boot lid is up, but he's gone, do you know what? I'm no aerodynamicist, but I think that might be quite good for downforce, so I'm going to work with it. And he just goes straight down to Cadwell Park to a track day there, and absolutely runs rings around a bunch of people in Westfields, and then it becomes rife. And every track day is half composed of current and former F1 drivers in shitters off eBay, all taking the piss out of the punters in their nice cars.
Listen, Rich, this is exactly my idea of automotive enjoyment, and you know that.
Then
or people that buy a Ferrari FXX and then immediately book it in to have the body swapped with something else, which would be great. But yeah.
So I was going to say, since we sort of had touched on that Ioniq 5, that I think from some angles it has a whiff of the Austin Princess that I mentioned earlier. It's the rear pillar.
Yes, the rear pillar. Yeah, and a few people have said first gen Seat Ibiza, which I think is with the engine system Porsche decal in the back window.
Yes.
I actually think that it does look a bit like one of those. I haven't seen one for ages, but
I don't.
No,
I'm not seeing that. I think it's reminiscent of a lot of cars of a certain era, including sort of, you could include like the Mark 1 Golf and the Fiat 127 and stuff like that, because it's very crisp. It's got a crisp style to it, and a sort of quite thick D pillar that's quite sort of raked, and it's just quite a nice looking car, isn't it?
I think it's a fantastic looking car because it's proof that something can be attractive with few lines. Yeah. And those sort of 8-bit computer video game style front and rear light clusters just work. I just think it's really confident with its uniqueness. It's not trying to follow the herd. And as you saw with the Honda E, when that broke out a couple of years ago, I think people are instantly attracted to it because it doesn't just look like everything else out there, and it's not an SUV. It's a good sized car with a big boot and offering quite a lot of practicality inside, but it's not a bloody great SUV. So I'm interested.
I'd like to see it.
I'm also a bit burpy. I do apologise for that. I just I'd sort of sculled quite a lot of strong coffee and it was bubbling. Yeah,
good. I think that Hyundai, it might be bigger than it looks in the pictures. I can't quite work it out.
No, it is bigger than it's got a 3-metre wheelbase. I know that much.
Yes, so
which is quite a big wheelbase.
Quite large. It's sort of like it's easy to go.
It's bigger than a Golf.
I think it looks like you go. Oh, it might be the size of a Golf, but I think it's bigger, isn't it? But no, it's a nice looking car, and Hyundai are sort of quite good at electric cars already, aren't they? All their stuff seems, well, as you know from having that sale for a while, that they all seem to live up to their build range, and they drive quite nicely and all that.
Well, I'm going to say this. I reckon that Kia Hyundai make the best non-Tesla drivetrains at the moment in terms of battery and motor combo. I think they make the most efficient, and they seem to be fairly effortless to drive, with giving back pretty good overall efficiency, miles per kilowatt hour. No, I really think so. I think everyone else is trying hard to catch up, but even all the big German brands and stuff, they're not near it yet. They're just not.
No.
I really miss my Kia Soul. I love my Soul. Our Soul, as I refer to it, our Soul, the family, our family Soul. I do very much like it. It's a cool car.
So yeah, I just think I don't know. I'm sure that'll be a very good car. It's quite interesting. They sort of said, it was inspired by the original Hyundai Pony, but I don't think it looks anything like it, and that's a good thing because the original Pony was not one of.
It was Pony.
Well, it was not one of Giugiaro's better efforts, was it? I think he gave it to the assistant or something. But
it was no Stella, was it?
Well, what was?
Do you know what? That's what you do. You say, listen, Gordon Murray, I love the T50S in principle. I'd just like it with a body shell of a Hyundai Stella, if that's all right. I think that then it would be absolutely on the money for me. Aerodynamically appalling, but everything else absolutely sweet.
And then he'd call you back and he'd go, well, Johnny, we found a Hyundai Stella on eBay to buy so we could measure it up to scan for the shell. And unfortunately, before we could buy it, it was snapped up by Sebastian Vettel so he could do a track day in it for a joke. And this is the problem now with these rare and shitty cars, that these F1 drivers are just scooping up. They've got the budget to be able to buy them so they can prank people on track days. So.
It's the rare but nobody cares adage that I liken it to.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. I can imagine all this stuff. And of course, ex-Formula One drivers will come in because they'll be like, oh, this is something I could get involved with.
They'll be all over it. And then, of course, then the touring car boys arrive and it all gets a bit crash and bash.
Because they're like, well, you're muscling into the full-bodied car racing territory now, so you've got my backup. So Matt Neal wades in a beige Ford Orion base model.
Yeah, see that guy in that really rusty Belmont that's going round like absolutely carving his way through that pack of Ferraris. Doesn't he look like Jason Plato?
Yes, it's exactly.
Hey, have you seen? I saw it on Twitter last week. Some people that we know on there. I can't remember who originally posted it. An ex-police Omega V6.
Oh gosh, so
but
good.
Plain clothes police. So it's a dark colour.
Was it a 3.2
plastic trims? 3.2.
Oh gosh,
3.2 auto
manual. Oh, it was auto, was it?
Yeah.
If it had been a manual, I would have had a sex explosion. Okay.
Well, we should be quite thankful that it's an automatic. I don't mind it being an automatic. I think it'll be all right. It suits the car, doesn't it? It's a good, but the police spec means it had an LSD, so quite interesting.
Okay, so yeah,
LSD, but plastic trims and velour seats, like super low spec in all kind of trimmings, but high spec mechanically.
Where was this, Rich? Where did you see this? Just asking for a friend?
It's on eBay. Yeah, you should definitely buy it.
No, I can't. Coupled with the fact that I shared you that image on, I think it was someone had taken a screen grab of Facebook Marketplace. I don't go on Facebook Marketplace. To me, it's as dangerous as a Chinese wet market. I saw the Rover 75 high roofed. Was it a personal ambulance or was it a hearse? I can't work it out.
That's got to have been a hearse. It was. Yeah. The windows were unfeasibly massive.
They were 5 foot tall and about 8 foot long. But what was amazing, someone had converted it into an Ecto 1 Ghostbusters car, but it was a manual. So someone had spec'd a hearse as a manual. Nobody specs a hearse as a manual, do they?
No,
imagine
and
if you absolutely
what?
Ride the clutch by accident, you've got a bit of jitter going on, and the coffin like smacks around on and the pallbearers get a bit of a.
And from memory, Rover 75s actually had a little bit of a sharp clutch on them. They were quite hard to do a smooth gear change in. Strangely so, because they feel like the kind of car that should be easy to drive really smoothly, and they weren't. And that's not very stately. A hearse should be automatic, surely.
Oh no, I feel like someone's had a couple of final journeys with a little bit of clutch judder.
Yeah.
There's a frustrated smearing at junctions. No, we've got to do a rush hour funeral. Oh no, don't take the Rover.
Sitting at traffic lights on a slight hill, those hearses must weigh a lot as well because of all the extra metal let into the bodywork and everything.
Yeah, a shed load of fiberglass
in traffic and then having to absolutely smoke the clutch to get going again. It's not dignified.
I do like it though. Talking when we were a few weeks ago about your dog car quandary, which obviously isn't a dog car anymore. It's just a really expensive V8 Range Rover, you tart. I did think, actually, that's brilliant. Rover 75 Hearse is a great dog car. Loads of viz for the dog. Nice and cheap, so you could rubber mat the back out, so it'd be absolutely fine. You could vacuum out all the fluff and the whatever dog eggs. That would just be so simple. Absolutely love it.
But I look like a total prick. Also, it was really long. I mean, where would I park it? And I know. Painted up like the Ghostbusters car.
Yeah.
So you'd look like a total tool in it, where you just go to the woods with the dog. People think you're strange.
Look, you know what I'm like. I'd do it, but I don't have a dog.
People
it's probably
where I
good that I
think
don't
I
have a
was
dog.
Strange. Yeah, it's good. It's good that you don't have a dog because you don't really like dogs. So that's.
Well, there is that. I woke my tortoise up 2 days ago. Actually, it's always a troubling time. It's just like it's been asleep for 3 months without food or water. I mean, how does that work? It's just incredible. And now he's up and about, chilling out in the sun and in the front room there. He's enjoying a bit of cauliflower leaf and a bit of dandelion. Just great animal.
Pop it on the radiator for a bit to get him going.
I've got a heat light for him and a heat mat, but as soon as the weather's up to temp regularly, he'll go outside. I've still lost the other one. It's a bit troubling. Sorry to bring the kind of the jovial chat down a bit, but yeah, we've lost the female. I can't find her. She must have dug down so deeply. I just hope that she survived winter,
She's dug down in the garden?
Yeah. I've searched for her for hours and hours and hours. I cannot find her. She's been out there since October last year.
Jesus.
So I hope she's alive. I very much hope she's alive because she's a lovely creature, but I just can't find her.
And I guess you can't find her like using one of those fire brigade heat detectors because she's not hot.
Because she's not. No, exactly. Because I did think about borrowing one. But that's right. That's the whole point. They drop their temperature down and then they go into sort of suspended animation. That's how they survive. I mean, they're insanely hardy creatures, but they can't survive a frost really if they're too close to the surface. Anyway, not quite as much fun as a ex-funereal Rover 75 dog cars, admittedly.
So the other one on the list of new cars to try and talk about was the Defender V8, which I sort of got a vibe from your social media last week that you're not so keen on.
Well, it's just a bit odd that, and I know they probably designed it 3 years ago, but it just seems a bit odd with all the kind of eco announcements and Land Rover, Range Rover, Jag needing to sell kind of more efficient cars. Suddenly go, oh, by the way, you can buy a short wheelbase Defender 90 with a supercharged petrol V8. And you're like, what? Really? Come on.
Yeah, on that note, I do agree with you. I think it does clash. Timing-wise, it's bad timing because it clashes with the roadmap that they announced the other week about, oh yeah, we're going all electric-y stuff, and it's just not quite in tune with that, is it? But as a car, I think fair enough. I mean, the engine
I know it's
exists,
be
the
for
car
probably,
exists, the platform.
Yes.
I know the Defender is a very modified version of the platform that's underneath the Range Rover and the Range Rover Sport and all that.
But we haven't done Sport for a couple of episodes. Sports.
And so
I said transit the other day to my daughter, and I did the proper sort of like turkey neck thing.
Yeah.
And she went, Daddy, what's going on with the neck when you say transit? So it's the way you have to say it. And she just looked at me, cocked an eyebrow, and walked off.
Yeah.
She's just, whatever, Dad. You're just weird.
Yeah.
Transit. God, I've actually just put my neck out doing it again. Oh, you bastard.
That'd be 6 sugars, please, mate. So, yes. What was I saying? I don't know. Oh, yeah, that platform.
V8.
Yeah, the basic, the hull of that car, although it's very modified for the Defender, is from other cars, and they already have that engine in them, and the engine already exists. So, it's, in development terms, I mean, I don't want to belittle the fact that probably some people devoted a few years of their life to this, but it's a relatively easy and cheap thing to do because all of the bits exist and they already go together in other cars, and so it was sort of a no-brainer. So relative to the cost-reward ratio, they've looked at the G-Wagon and they've gone, there's enough pricks out there who'll buy a wildly overpowered SUV. We could do that and bung it up for 6 figures. So I think the 110 is just over 100 grand.
What?
Yeah, but if people are prepared to pay that,
I guess
because
if people are prepared,
I reckon relatively it's it's a fairly low cost exercise. So there's a chunk of profit in that, and the profit is needed to pay for all the electrical and hybrids and interesting stuff that's coming up in the future. So fair play to them. I mean, the one thing that Jaguar Land Rover have sometimes not been great at is making money. So when there's an absolute no-brainer like this, I say more power to their elbow. And even if it does slightly clash with the message they're trying to put out there, the car itself is cash money in the bank.
I think when I put the Twitter poll out, I was possibly a little bit angry, and when I reflected on it a couple of hours later, I've just looked actually. It had 7,100 votes, 51% V8, 49% EV.
Huh.
Yeah. Do we think that this would have been a better idea as a full EV? Now, a few people went, well, what about both? And I've said absolutely both. I mean, look at things like Mercedes AMG. They got a good suite of V8s and stuff. They're going into EV really hard. Audi are doing the same. Lots of manufacturers like that. However, I think the thing is like you could have. People are like, they'll bring a Defender electric out in the next 5 years. It's like 5 years is too late, because in 5 years Tesla will have done stuff. Rivian will have launched their. Rivian are probably going to launch their stuff next year in the UK, and if Land Rover aren't ready for it, that's going to shat on them. Because
it's not, because Tesla is still a small car company, relatively speaking. I mean, admittedly, their sort of production numbers are getting around the same size as Jaguar Land Rover, but Jaguar Land Rover is a small car company, and
true.
Rivian will be nowhere. They don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the brand recognition, they won't sell a lot of things. They won't absolutely shaft Land Rover because people have heard of Land Rover, and for all their failings, people still want Land Rovers. That's what
true.
They have. And there won't be a Defender EV because that platform's not compatible with full EV as far as I can gather, and to make it compatible would have cost an absolute shatting fortune. So the V8 is an easy win to make some money that pays for them to make sure the next one is totally capable of doing whatever the market wants. Also, let's not forget, the Defender V8 will not be a big selling car because it's really expensive and because most people don't need it, even if they want it.
True.
But
no, that
a
is
Defender
true.
EV wouldn't be a big selling car right now. EVs are not. They're climbing, and it's definitely where it's going because it's going to be mandated. But if they did a Defender EV and it came out today, I bet you it would be like less than 10% of overall Defender sales, because for most people they're still cautious about making the switch. And if you're able to afford the Defender, you can probably afford the petrol or diesel to put in it, so it's not an economy thing, it's more of a statement thing. It's that you want to show that you're being ecological and what have you, but you're probably too rich to care.
I know, Rich, that the voice of sense has spoken. I suppose I'm just like, with the I-Pace being out, and knowing how nicely put together that car is and how well it drives, it just seems weird and annoying that there hasn't been more spawn of that in the JLR group in the last.
The I-Pace is a weird one, isn't it? That it's a whole standalone EV platform.
Yeah,
it seems like
probably cost them hundreds of millions of euros or whatever.
Yeah.
So why not bloody stretch the idea of that?
As far as I can gather, that car will just die, and the everything about it will go with it. That it's not part of their future strategy, unless
it's a crime. It's a crime.
Reading between the lines on that announcement the other week, it seems like there might be some. Who knows whether there'll be something based on that just to get an electric car out there fast. But it feels like they're saying Jag will have its own electric platform, and it's implied that is all new.
They've canned the XJ. They've canned the new XJ, which is ready to go.
Yeah, that's really odd. Well, it is and it isn't. Odd. I mean, it was never going to. The old XJ was never a big seller in its later years.
True.
There's not much to suggest the new one would have changed that just because of where it is. It's like Mercedes is going to do a full-size sort of limo car that's all electric, the EQS, which is coming very soon, but they're not binning off the S-Class, whereas Jaguar are just going to put all their eggs into the electric basket, and that probably wouldn't have generated a lot of sales. So I guess they just had to be brave and throw it away. But it's a shame.
That is brave. That is really brave.
I mean, fucking hell, it's expensive as well because
they've
put all the money into developing it.
And the car was ready, wasn't it? The car was actually ready for production.
It was certainly close from what I could gather, yeah. I mean, it was supposed to have been out already, so it must have been very
ready.
Near, because, when you develop a car, there's a schedule.
Yeah. We're not talking British Leyland ready, like, it's not quite ready. But it is ready, though, isn't it? Because we're going to sell it anyway.
Yeah.
It's not quite like that. But yeah,
I'm not
Land
allowed
Rover
to
V8.
say that I saw that XJ.
Don't say it. Don't say it, Rich.
It was quite a handsome thing. And it was a hatchback. But I couldn't tell you that because I haven't seen it officially.
You didn't see it, though, so it's okay.
I didn't see it. If I'd seen it, I would have known that it had a really nice interior as well. But I haven't seen it, so I can't tell you that.
It's just, this is all theory. This is all theory
very,
chat.
Very much
a
theory. Yeah.
Theory chat, sitting on the doormat as the kids in the playground never chant, ever.
Anyway, I don't think NDAs are that enforceable, are they? But let's move on to something else.
Were they from Compton in Los Angeles?
They were, yes. Non-disclosure attitude.
Oh, very much so.
And,
very much so. They'd love to sing about it and rap about it, but they can't because they're not allowed. They're
just going to pop their album on. It's just 57 minutes of silence. Brilliant.
It's a bit disappointing. Never mind.
Shit. Since we're sort of trying to be on topic a bit, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was that last week or the week before we lost Bruce Myers.
Yes, the godfather of the beach buggy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I had a bit of a moment there actually. I remember he used to feature quite heavily in a lot of the mags I worked on in the early days of my career with air-cooled VWs, and he was I think I felt a bit sorry for him because he'd kind of been ripped off quite a few times. So he was a man that was full of innovation and ideas. He was definitely a get-up-and-doer. Rather than just sit there and moan about what he could have done. But the problem was, is he went and did it, and then other people just took him for a ride. Him off. Yeah, it's a real shame.
He died on the 19th of February, so week last Friday. But
let's dedicate this podcast to Bruce Mayers, the godfather of the beach buggy.
The beach buggy, yeah. He was 94. So,
he was. Yeah, he was old. He was an old dude.
But so, hanging out on the beaches of California is good for you.
Very much so.
I think we could have guessed that.
It still just reminds me, in my head, whenever I look at a beach buggy or think about one, I sing the Thomas Crown Affair music, where Steve McQueen nearly snaps his neck off jumping over jumping over. You see him properly ragdoll. What was the name of the lady in it? Is it Faye Dunaway?
Yeah.
In the Thomas Crown Affair, they jump over a huge dune with a beach buggy with no seatbelts and no roll cage, and they both sort of fully ragdoll, and I'm half expecting Steve McQueen to smack his chin on the edge of the fiberglass dashboard, but he has to keep a straight face because he's in the middle of filming, which really badly hurting. We've all done it, where you've massively hurt yourself, but you've got to prove a point, so you've got to grit your teeth and get on with it. Wartime spirit spec. All
the time. I mean, even stubbing your toe, it's best not to make too much of a fuss, but at the same time, it fucking hurts. It's funny because beach buggies, I know obviously you are an air-cooled Beetle enthusiast, and I'm not, but I have driven a beach buggy, and it was really, really good fun, and I liked it a lot. I liked it way more than any Beetle I've driven.
It's amazing how the same car can be transformed, really, isn't it?
I think it's just there's something very jolly about having no roof or sides that helps, and it's impossible for a car like that to be serious, so it's sort of funny and amusing.
Well, it's this sort of equivalent of going to the Burning Man festival and dancing around with a load of strangers wearing nothing apart from a really short t-shirt. And there's people standing around who are going, oh well, we're at the Burning Man, it's fine. It's like, yeah, but that guy is sort of naked apart from a really short ill-fitting t-shirt, so it doesn't matter, we're at the Burning Man festival. Look at his face, he's having a great time. He's got glitter on his cheeks, yeah, but he's got his dick out.
I think was it the Oatmeal, the Oatmeal, that cartoon series is often brilliant, and I think they did a little drawing pointing out the difference between a man wearing nothing but a t-shirt and a woman wearing nothing but a t-shirt. With a woman, it's somehow sort of playful and sexy.
Oh, it's alluring.
When a man does it, it's absolutely revolting.
It's so true. It's so true. I'm banned from doing it in the house, which is such a shame because I get cold shoulders, but I've got absolutely no problem leaving the dingling out now and again.
What? Really? I that's the thing. I think it is a terrible look for a man.
I think I've done it without ever looking in the mirror. And that's the thing.
See,
now that I've been told it's unacceptable, we've
got a big mirror in our bedroom, and sometimes I'm just getting undressed to get in the shower, and for some reason the last thing I take off is a t-shirt. I kind of go, oh, don't ever do that again. It's it's not a strong look at all.
Weren't we supposed to have talked about the McLaren Artura that we didn't talk about last week?
Isn't that a brand of lard?
It's the Sex Tourer.
Yeah, what about it? It's a V6 hybrid. It sort of has a look that relates it to the 720S, but it's a bit shorter, and it's got those buttresses, and I don't know, I'm sure it's very good. The problem I have with McLarens generally is just that they are so fast and so good that they're almost just, I don't know, too much maybe. They're really, really good, but I'm not that good a driver.
Yeah.
I sort of almost
and I know we've said it before, I feel that McLaren's biggest problem is that it's punting too many things out in quick succession.
Well, I do see the Artura as a step in the right direction for one reason, which is they're giving it a name, and I think just a name rather than an alphanumeric code.
Oh, completely. It
gives it a little bit more personality, and I hope they carry on and they just develop a whole range of easily understood names, and that I think might help to humanise them a bit.
I'm with you on that. Otherwise, it's a touch Soviet. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Because sort of Soviet era cars were all just code names, weren't they?
Yes.
They didn't have proper names.
No, it's just you were part of a car company that you contacted the central bureau of whatever it was, and they went, yes, your 4921 is your next. That's the name of your next project.
Thank you. That's lovely. Yeah.
Thank you. Backing away. So that helps, and that's the thing. I don't want to diss McLaren. They're incredibly impressive, and they are really good. Everyone that I've driven, I know some people were a bit down on the original MP412C. But I really liked it. I thought it was impressive. I liked the sort of some of the sort of sensible thinking that went into it. I remember driving it back to back. This is a bit clangy because it's a cool thing that I got to do. But I drove it back to back with a Lamborghini Aventador.
Did you?
And on some quite narrow roads. And the Aventador's a fucking nightmare on narrow roads because it's so big. And I don't really like it as a car. I mean, it's an awful car. It's a great-looking car, but I think I said in the thing I wrote about it, the best place to enjoy an Aventador is from another car, because then you can see it, and it looks great, and it sounds great, but it's not very nice to drive.
I know exactly what you mean. I want to see one turning up at a show, and I want to hear one, and one doing a hot lap at Goodwood and going, oh, that's cool. I don't know if I want it.
The other week, we were coming back from somewhere, and one was just driving down the road that leads to our road, which is not the kind of place you'd normally think to see an Aventador. And it was just an incredibly exciting moment. Like, I was as excited as my boy was, and he's 6. But seeing a Lamborghini in the wild, particularly a big Lamborghini, is really exciting. I don't want to drive one. I don't want to own one.
Yeah. I'm absolutely with you on that. I think
they're sort of like lions or something, aren't they? I don't want to own a lion. It would be a terrible pet, but I'm really glad they exist, and I'd love to see one in the flesh again soon.
So we like supercar Joe Exotic. You don't want to be Joe Exotic, do you?
No, I mean, that's the thing. Those people who collect all those supercars, you just go, you fucking idiot. Why would you do that?
And all they're doing is behind closed doors, they're moaning at the fact they've done 12 miles in their Enzo, and it's still got to have 6 cam belts a year, and each one's 40 grand. So basically, just drive it hard because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
You know, you might as well.
Yeah, there's that chap Simon George who writes in Evo sometimes, who's got that Murcielago that he's done. I can't remember what the mileage is up to now, like 200,000 miles or something like that. I mean, it's a bit
Amazing.
Trigger's broom, but he's certainly used it, and fair play to him. He probably has had fewer problems overall than someone who just occasionally gets it out and finds that, like you say, it's like, oh, I'm afraid it needs an entire new set of brake lines. Just a standard service item.
Yeah, sorry, but you didn't drive it, so hashtag not bothered. Can I just, before we get off the subject of McLarens, I'm just going to put it out there. I've only ever driven one, and they never speak to me. They've never emailed me. They've never phoned me.
Well, do you phone them? Maybe they're
waiting for your
call.
Yes, I have done. I have done in the past, and I seem to get nothing. So I feel like they obviously value, or they have done in the past, they obviously value sort of normal YouTube influencers rather than older ones. And I'm not bitter about it, but I just wanted to put something out there and just say that it's just I'd quite like to drive a McLaren at some point. It would be interesting, especially as I think they sort of have a PR problem. Just going to put that out there. You know,
but they're good.
What with residuals and all that. You know, it's probably cheaper than a Land Rover Disco 4 right now.
Probably. They hold their value.
They do. In fact, a friend of mine's selling a Landmark, the very last edition one, if anyone's interested. It's going under.
Oh, they're nice, yeah.
It's going up for sale in a couple of weeks' time. Yeah, it's handsome beast.
Yeah.
Alrighty,
well, let's just pull this into the bank once again.
Spout.
If you want to get in touch with us and tell us, we're probably due a show in which we read out some listeners' emails and messages and things like that. And we did say a few weeks ago, it's weird no women listen to this podcast. Quite a few women have been in touch. Thank you. I'll read out those messages in I don't know, the next show or something, if we remember, which we probably won't, but we will do it at some point, including one woman who wrote in and went, "Hello, I'm one of your listeners and I'm also a no-tail," which I thought was a remarkable way of identifying herself as a woman.
I've never heard that.
No. Anyway, so we will do, but if you want to get in touch in the meantime, smithandsniff@gmail.com, and if you're feeling generous, we have a Patreon. Just search Smith and Sniff. We really do appreciate
your support.
Helping us to justify to our wives why we do this. Anyway, in the meantime, I have 3 things to tell you. 1, Jonny has a solo YouTube channel called The Late Break Show. Many excellent videos on there. And if you're from McLaren, please do give him a call about that. 2, I have several books out. One of them is called Medium-Sized Book of Boring Car Trivia. It's available exclusively on Amazon. Just search for that or Sniff Petrol. You'll find it there. And 3, sloths are surprisingly good swimmers.
Yeah, they are. They're also just lovely. I'd love to cuddle one, like watching a really good film, like Shawshank Redemption.
But they've got really sharp claws, haven't they?
Oh, yeah, I put a rug down first.
Okay, wise, very wise. They can actually swim 3 times faster than they can move on land, and they can also shit out 1/3 of their body weight.
1/3?
So you really do need that rug down if you value your sofa.
Oh, I'm putting a rug down, and that's not prison slang. I'm absolutely going to put a rug down.
Oh, my dears. Okay, well, just one more thing. I've got to read this out because otherwise I really will forget, and we will. Should we just promise that next week we'll try and do some listeners' communications. Because it is a bit overdue. But we were talking last week about wicker furniture, and I wanted to know why it's somehow acceptable.
Oh, yeah.
To have wicker furniture in a conservatory.
But nowhere else.
A chap called Martin Blaylock on YouTube, on the YouTube comments, wrote, "So Richard, the frames of wicker furniture are incredibly resilient to changes in temperature through the year. Normal furniture has hardwood frames where the wood and glue can dry out and crack the joints when the conservatory gets warm. Bamboo (brackets wicker) does not react in the same way and is therefore much more stable. That's why there is wicker furniture in conservatories." He ends with saying, "Bloody awful stuff, though."
Temperature change. That's what it is.
And Martin sounds, I mean, he could be making this up, but he speaks with a voice that sounds like authority, so I'm just going to go with that. There we go. A question from last week answered. This is the calibre of listener that we have. They are intelligent and informed, and I'm sorry to all of them that we obviously let them down. Anyway, thank you ever so much for listening. We'll be we'll be doing more of this next week. Until then, thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Just made a big swollen